Hello and welcome to this edition of World at War. My name is Mohammed Saleh. If you want peace, then prepare for war is an old Roman maxim. And any nation that neglects its defenses lays itself bare for a belligerent enemy to attack. In the course of just the last decade, Iran has built up a formidable arsenal of drones and missiles. But Iran's air defense systems have often gone under the radar and haven't been adequately discussed. On the 26th of October, when Israel attacked the Iranian military sites, Tel Aviv's intention was to exhibit its might to the world and to create deterrence. But even the most ardent supporters of Israel have admitted that the Israeli attack on Iran, contrary to Israel's reputation of hitting back with disproportionate force, were actually quite underwhelming to say the least. According to reports that have since emerged, besides the Russian-supplied S-300 air defense systems, the Iranians have also fielded their indigenously developed Zubin air defense systems that took down many of the Israeli drones and missiles. What is interesting is that the Zubin air defense system is called the Iranian Iron Dome. So how does the Iranian Iron Dome compare with the much-touted Israeli Iron Dome? Our next report gets you the details. This was the moment that Israel chose to attack Iran. In the dead of the night, on the 26th of October, at about 2 o'clock in the wee hours of the morning, when everyone would have gone to sleep. But contrary to the earlier Israeli claims that the world will sit up and take notice of its might when it carries out its attack on Iran, what actually played out was this. The Israelis attacked in 3 waves, but Iran had first been given due notice by Israel that Tel Aviv would resort to an aerial attack. It is not clear how many of the Israeli missiles and drones were shot down, but videos that have gone viral on social media show the Israeli missiles and drones getting intercepted over Tehran. It has since emerged that Iran deployed its recently and indigenously developed Zubin air defense systems in blunting the Israeli missile and drone attacks. The Zubin air defense system is a 360-degree interceptor. It provides protection against low-altitude threats with capabilities likened to Israel's Iron Dome. Built with high tactical mobility, the Zubin air defense missile system is mounted on a 6x6 truck chassis, allowing for swift repositioning as required by the changing threat conditions. Zubin's radar is capable of detecting up to 100 targets simultaneously within a 30-kilometer radius and can engage with threats within a 20-kilometer range. Each unit is equipped with a vertical launch canister system holding up to 8 missiles, allowing the system to respond to multiple threats at once. Dubbed Iran's Iron Dome, the Zubin air defense system can intercept drones, loitering munitions, cruise missiles, helicopters, and even low-flying fighter jets. The Israeli Iron Dome that was developed by the Rafale Advanced Defense Systems has been deployed by Israel to shoot down the crude rockets fired by Hamas and Hezbollah since 2011. Each battery of the Israeli Iron Dome costs a prohibitive $15 million, and a single interception costs $100,000 a pop. Is the Iranian Iron Dome as good as the Israeli Iron Dome is hard to say, but Iran seems to have built a similar interception system at a fraction of the cost. Joe Biden, who's backed the Israeli wars in the Gaza Strip and Lebanon to the hilt, is on his way out. In the last 13 months, Netanyahu has flouted every red line that was set down for him by the Biden administration. And paradoxically, Joe Biden continues to send every kind of weapons system to Israel to continue with the wars, even though the Biden administration with a straight face has claimed that it has been working tirelessly day and night for a ceasefire and a hostage release deal. But under Biden administration's mediation, there's been no ceasefire and no hostage release deal. Donald Trump, who trounced the Democrats in the presidential elections, has promised to end the wars in the Middle East.
I want to see the Middle East get back to peace and real peace, but a peace that's going to be a lasting peace. and that's going to happen. I feel really, truly confident it's going to happen, and I believe it's going to happen soon.
The death toll in the Gaza Strip has crossed the 43,500 mark. More than 100,000 Palestinians have sustained serious injuries, with many of them having suffered amputations. In Lebanon, the death toll due to the Israeli onslaught has now crossed the 3,100 mark, and almost 14,000 people have been grievously injured. In the final days of Joe Biden's administration, the drumbeats of war haven't quietened down. The Gaza Strip has been turned into a desolation. Almost the entire population of 2.4 million Palestinians of the Gaza Strip have been displaced and have been forced to live in squalid tent camps. In Lebanon, Israel has carried on with its campaign of relentless bombings. The United Nations has warned of a catastrophic famine in the Gaza Strip.
I think by reiterating once again the urgency to allow more assistance into Gaza, every part of Gaza. I think, the notes that we read here every day that depict such a grim humanitarian situation, such a difficult humanitarian situation. We really need to have more access. We need to have more security. We need to ensure that once that supplies that enter Gaza are able to reach everywhere inside Gaza, to reach all of these people that are desperately in need of assistance. And so we're going to keep advocating for more and more assistance reaching everywhere and in sufficient quantity.
The people who are fleeing from the Israeli onslaught say that the only way this bloodletting can come to an end is only if the United States, that has been arming Israel, uses its leverage and stops sending weapons to Netanyahu. But the big question is this: can Donald Trump stop the wars and bring peace to the Middle East, an objective in which Joe Biden has woefully failed? Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky claimed on Thursday that some of the 11,000 North Korean troops sent to Russia's Kursk region had taken part in fighting and suffered casualties in combat with Kiev's forces. Furthermore, he warned that more North Korean troops would be deployed on the Russian side unless action was taken in response. Despite South Korean and US intelligence, as well as NATO claiming to have seen evidence of North Korean troops being involved in Russia's war, both Moscow and Pyongyang have so far refrained from responding directly to any of these allegations. Reportedly, North Korea, in addition to the troops, has also sent more than 1,000 missiles to Russia, as well as millions of munitions. How crucial is the role of the North Korean troops in the Russia-Ukraine war? Our next poll gets you the details.
Active involvement of the DPRK troops in the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine represents very bad news for the world.
In what has been described as the opening of a new chapter of instability in the world, the North Korean soldiers have clashed with Ukrainian troops for the first time.
Припинення вогню, коли немає далі.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, speaking at a news conference at the European Political Community Summit in Budapest on Thursday, asserted not only the deployment of North Korean troops in the Kursk border region, where Ukrainian troops have a foothold, but also claimed casualties suffered by North Korean soldiers in combat with Kiev's forces.
11,000
There are 11,000 troops. Part of them have already been in active combat against Ukrainian soldiers, and there have been losses already.
Так, є вже втрати.
Zelensky further condemned the West's lack of response to the presence of North Korean troops in Russia.
Наступний крок.
If we do not deploy adequate weapons and political pressure on the Russian Federation, the next step may be much more extensive use of North Korean contingent. Because Putin always observes what the reaction of the world is. I believe that today the reaction is not sufficient.
Путін завжди дивиться, яка реакція світу.
Reportedly, so far, it's been a case of just small contacts and not full-scale engagement, as most of the North Korean contingent is still undergoing tactical training. Once battle-hardened, they will be deployed under various commands of the Russian army on the front lines. Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov, in an interview with South Korean broadcaster KBS, had claimed that 5 units, each consisting of around 3,000 North Korean soldiers, would be deployed across the battlefield.
We can be sure that DPRK will be extracting a high price from Russia in return for the transfer of its troops.
Experts are of the opinion that Pyongyang could be paid or may be given access to Russian military technology in exchange for the troops. Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has neither denied nor confirmed the deployment of North Korean troops in Russia, suggested on Thursday that Russia could hold military drills with North Korea.
Let us see. We can hold the drills too. Why not? There is a 4th article which deals with the mutual assistance in case of an aggression from a different state.
Although President Putin has expressed his willingness to discuss Ukraine with Trump. He has reaffirmed that he will not alter his demands and Russia's goals in Ukraine remain unchanged. Which begs the question, can Donald John Trump, the US president-elect, deliver on his promise of ending the Russia-Ukraine war?
At least 40 Chadian soldiers were killed and 37 others were wounded after their military base was attacked on the 27th of October. Reportedly, the late evening attack near the Nigerian border was carried out by the Islamist militant group Boko Haram. The targeted military garrison in the Lake Chad region housed more than 200 Chadian soldiers. The Chadian president, Mohammed Idris Deby Itno, who visited the scene early next day, has vowed to hunt down the militants. The GCAP opposition platform, composed of 15 fiercely anti-government parties, however, has demanded that the circumstances in which the onslaught took place should be clarified, fearing a possible security breach. Our next report gets you the details.
The president of Chad, 40-year-old Mohammed Idris Deby Itno, who is an elite soldier by training, visited the Lake Chad region early on Monday morning to assess the situation on the ground, where suspected Boko Haram militants had killed around 40 Chadian troops overnight.
There has been fighting. Thanks to our brave defense and security forces, the situation is now under control. Unfortunately, we have many martyrs and casualties too.
Reportedly, Boko Haram assailants in a surprise attack took control of the military garrison, seized ammunition and equipment and set ablaze vehicles equipped with heavy arms. Among the dead soldiers was garrison's unit commander as well. In a bid to lift the morale of his brothers in arms, President Mohammed Deby launched an operation to go after the attackers and track them down in their furthest hideouts.
We are going to hunt down every last one of them. We are going to hunt them down wherever they go. We are going to follow them. We are going to pursue them. We are going to eliminate them one by one. In a few days' time, they will see the thunderbolts of the Chadian National Army.
Shared by Nigeria, Niger, Cameroon and Chad, the Lake Chad region is considered a notorious bolt hole for jihadist groups, such as Boko Haram and its offshoot Islamic State in West Africa, who frequently launch attacks on the Chadian army and civilians. The Chadian army suffered its biggest ever one-day loss in the region in March 2020, when around 100 soldiers died in a raid on the lake's Bohoma Peninsula. Leading from the front, President Mohammed Deby remained on the ground since the launch of the operation, dubbed Operation Haskanite, to personally monitor the response operation.
L'opération Haskanite ne vise pas seulement à sécuriser nos paisibles populations.
Operation Haskanite is not just about securing our peaceful populations, because the terrorist group's harmful actions jeopardize the stability of the region and all the countries sharing the Lake Chad basin. The aim is to hunt down, locate and annihilate Boko Haram and its affiliates. The terrorists will pay dearly for this affront.
Et d'anéantir la capacité de nuisance de Boko Haram.
On Tuesday, Chad urged the international community to step up support for counter-terrorism efforts in the Sahel region and Lake Chad basin in order to eradicate the scourge of terrorism which threatens the stability and the development of this entire region. Determined collective action is the need of the hour.
Bolivia has been gripped by political unrest for more than 3 weeks now. Since the middle of October, the Game of Thrones between the President Luis Arce and the former President Evo Morales within Bolivia's ruling party, the movement for socialism has resulted in more than 127 people getting wounded in clashes between the security forces and Morales' supporters. Roads have been blocked, cutting off transport between the 3 main cities. Dynamite has been employed to fend off the riot police, and 3 military posts have been occupied with officers and soldiers being detained. Evo Morales has also pointed an accusatory finger at Arce for a reported assassination attempt against him, a charge that's been denied by the government. Our next report gets you the details.
Bolivia's first indigenous president, 65-year-old Evo Morales, who ruled for 14 years from 2006 to 2019, was immensely popular until he tried to bypass the constitution to seek a 4th term. Though declared a winner of the 2019 election, Morales had to resign weeks later following nationwide protests triggered by claims of election fraud. Sensing the public sentiment against him, Morales went into exile, first to Mexico and then to Argentina. A year later, the left-wing MAS party returned to power under the stewardship of Luis Arce, Morales' protege and former finance minister of 12 years. Morales too returned from Argentina, envisioning a favorable political climate. But his attempt to exert influence over Arce's administration did not go down well, igniting enormous friction between them. What once was a close alliance soon devolved into a bitter rivalry marked by extreme mutual accusations. Morales has since been barred from running again for president. But he wants to challenge his former ally turned rival Arce for the nomination of the MAS party in elections next August. Morales' supporters have created blockades using rocks, logs and other objects around his central stronghold of Cochabamba since prosecutors announced last month that he was being investigated for statutory rape, human trafficking and human smuggling over his alleged relationship with a 15-year-old girl in 2015. Morales has denied the charges and his supporters demand an end to the investigation. On 27th of October, Evo Morales claimed that state agents fired a hail of bullets at his car as he traveled to a radio interview in the central city of Cochabamba, wounding his driver. A day later, the Bolivian government accused the former president of staging an attempt on his own life, claiming that the shots fired at his car came after he tried to run a police checkpoint.
Señor Morales, nadie le cree el teatro que ha realizado, pero usted...
Mr. Morales, nobody believes the theater you have staged, but you're going to have to answer to Bolivian justice for the crime of attempted murder of a police officer. Mr. Morales, we are tired of your lies. Mr. Morales, we are tired. Stop lying to the Bolivian people. Stop. We ask you to stop blockading the country, to tell the Bolivian people what you were hiding in your vehicles. Why didn't you want to slow down in the presence of the Bolivian police?
De la policía boliviana.
Last week, protesters took some 200 soldiers hostage at their barracks in a bid to prevent them from trying to arrest Morales or clear the roadblocks. Struggling with shortages of fuel and spiraling food prices, Morales' supporters claim the former president is a victim of judicial persecution.
They made an attempt on the life of our brother Evo. They want to say that it was a self-inflicted attack, which is a total lie. This government is lying to us, brothers and sisters. No one believes it. Evo, you are not alone. For us, this time the dialogue with government is over. This dictatorial, repressive government must resign. This is the demand of our brothers and sisters. This government does not represent us anymore. It is no longer the government of the Bolivian people.
Este gobierno ya no nos representa, ya no es gobierno de los bolivianos y bolivianas.
Para aparentar fortaleza estatal.
Morales has repeatedly insisted that a dialogue is needed between the government and his supporters to avoid shedding blood. On the 1st of November, he began a hunger strike to push for talks with the government. Furthermore, he told reporters that his candidacy for president was legal and that he was honoring the demands of his supporters.
To avoid shedding blood, it's better to rapidly install a dialogue with the presence of international organisms or our friends from the international community. The people remember the 14 years of my government, all the public works. Now there's none, so they automatically ask for my election. If they say they don't want Evo, I'll stop asking to be a candidate and return to my crops.
In the intensifying political atmosphere over the last few weeks, the roadblocks have accentuated food and fuel shortages nationwide and plunged the economy even deeper into disarray. Annual inflation, 6.2% in September, stood at its highest in a decade. Tensions with security forces have reached a boiling point, and protests have ballooned into wider anti-government revolt. Given Morales' considerably weakened position, the rift within the MAS and President Arce's plummeting popularity, there's a door ajar for liberal and conservative forces in the 2025 elections after 2 decades in opposition.
And with that's the wrap on this edition of World at War. And if you want to reach out to me with any comments, feedback or suggestions, please feel free to do so on the RD that you're seeing on your screens. I'm your host, Mohammed Saleh, and I'll see you again next week.